this is Kathy Chase. As everybody's seen, my 4th grade book, where it's got, I don't know, various things, a part about a zoo and things and such. It's got 79 pages in it, my 4th grade book from Mr. Bartle's class. Mr. Bartles used to change his shoes in class, and he used to use a shoehorn to change his shoes in class, just like kind of like in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where Mr. Rogers would always change his shoes. Well, Mr. Bartles would always change his shoes. We'd go outside and he'd change his shoes. And the book that I had pictures of online, or it's still on my Facebook, I think. Anyways, I am looking at a pocket camera from Fisher-Price. Same one I had when I was a little girl. And it says on it, a trip to the zoo. East Aurora, New York. Aurora, New York. A trip to the zoo is what it says when you look inside of it. The number of the product on the Fisher-Price camera, it has, you know, a trip to the zoo. It's got all the pictures of the animals in it with a little flash cube on top. Old cameras used to have the little flash cubes. Anyways, when I was in 4th grade, my parents got separated, and I lived on Clare Street in apartments there, kind of off by South Haven there on Clare, right on 48th, right across from the fire station, and Center Place Apartments. My mom was dating Vern Jensen at the time. That was right when MTV first came out, and everybody knows about MTV, the award being the Moon Man. So in the 4th grade is precisely when MTV came about, and their award, the trophy for music television would be the Moon Man trophy. I talked about you know, the whole De Beers and Neil Diamond and Neil Armstrong, and then you have Cape Canaveral. People with capes would be capes or a cloak would be Count Dracula, or the Count on Sesame Street, or Superman with X-ray vision. So anyways, the Fisher-Price toy is very relevant. I think I know I had little music boxes when I was little. I'm pretty sure they were Fisher-Price too. They would rotate and spin in a little circle. You wind them up, and they would spin, and they'd play music, and they'd show little pictures. As I said, you know, I got to thinking about Neighbors on Quail Ridge Circle, and I talked about the Leonards, and then there was the Clarks, and then there was the Parks, and then there were the Foxes, and then there were the McInernys with the MC, and then there was the Gibsons, and then there was the Henricks. But before the Henricks lived there, there was the O'Neills. And then I thought about, you know, the kneel thing. People kneel when they pray and so forth. And then the whole thing with potatoes, I got to thinking, well, where are they getting this from? And then I figured out Tatum O'Neil would be the connection, possibly. And then Red Fox did Sanford and Son. And then that just came to mind just now. 20th Century Fox movies and so forth. And then the McInerney name. This is kind of relevant because you got Macintosh, Apple, 2C computers is what we used at Zeeman, and that's where we learned how to play lemonade stand. Lemonade stand, you'd have to do A prompt or C prompt, and you'd have to do the run. You'd have to type in run, lemonade stand. You'd have to type in commands. When the Apple IIc computer came out by Macintosh. That was Macintosh. I was introduced to computers in, I think it was the 3rd grade, and Zeman. I'm pretty sure that was the same grade we learned to tell time. Has nothing to do with me. Counterclockwise has nothing to do with me, and counterintelligence is 2 different things. As I said, these people obviously have some issues with playing Connect the Dot and using people's names from where I've lived and then names in the phone book. The Mick name, as I said, the McInerney's lived across the street. Their son was Chris, and then I have to relate the Chris name for you. I went to school with Chris Higher, Chris McMasters went to Southeast. Oh gosh, there's so many Chris's. Chris Miller, I guess that would be probably, I don't know, I think he went to East or something. As far as Miller Genuine Giraffe and High Street and people connecting names and wanting to play war with a mother of 3 children. Chris Kringle, Santa Claus, or in my case, Satan Claus. A clause is a contract, which is illegal. You can't have a contract on a person's life, of course. You can't even make the offer. Santa, of course, the North Pole. And when I was little, we went to Pikes Peak, visited the North Pole there. They have a little North Pole station there. But getting more into the Mick names, MC names. I looked in the phone book. Well, McMasters is an old real estate company on 27th Street. It's very old. And it's right across from Ace Lumber. And then behind it would be the original Phillips 66 right there off of Randolph. And there's a whole bunch of Mick names, MC names in the phone book in which you can connect because you have Rand McNally maps and the geography thing and the coordinates. Rand McNally, you've got the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger. It's not quite MC, but it's still MC. Mick is short for MC is short for Mick. Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse watches have been huge for I don't know, since the 40s or 50s. Mickey Mouse watches. MC is initials for MasterCard. If you look at a MasterCard, you see the circles. I remember growing up looking at the signs on the doors. You'd always see MasterCard or Visa, on the windows. Well, my dad never used a MasterCard. He always used Visa. I don't recall my father ever owning a MasterCard. And MC. MC, you have USMC, Marine Corps, boot camp, and so forth. Something extremely relevant I came across was, I remember the old Manwich commercials. Manwich is another name for Sloppy Joe, and everybody knows about Kathy Joe, my first name. Kathy Joe is 2 different words, but it's my first legal name. You have Sloppy Joe, Pigs Eat Slop, in the relation to the Charlotte's Web thing. the first home I lived in was on Beckner, I think it's spelled B-O-E, C-K-N-E-R, and Beal Slaw is right behind it. Slop is also a food term for military. Chipped beef and toast is common food. Rations rations are used by military, and rations are used by NASA. The whole Jack thing, Jack the Ripper, Jack Be Quick, Jack ran over a candlestick, and all this other stuff. There's so many Jack references. Blackjack, as I said, 21, and Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. You've got wells and water wells and wishing wells, and there's a lot of out by where we lived before, on Truchard Road, there were said to be artesian wells underneath, and out in 68526, zip code 68526. I'm not sure if there are artesian wells out there, but that was just kind of the rumor. Also, another thing about the Sam thing, son of Sam, I guess devil, Sam being Uncle Sam Money, and then Sam the Butcher on Alice, and Sam I Am Green Eggs and Ham, Dr. Seuss, Sam, there's so many of them. Sam's Club, well, everybody knows about that. That's a more recent thing, but Sam's used to be a restaurant that sold hamburgers out on North 48th. They would never put ketchup on their hamburgers. They always put, from what I remember, it was always mustard, pickles, and onions. I thought that was gross. I never liked them because they never put ketchup on them. Sam's was around for a very long time, but it is now a gas station, and I think it's the same building. I'm pretty sure. I think it's a gas station there now, but it was there for a very, very, very long time, and so forth. So, anyways, this is important also. The MC names, if you look in the Lincoln phone book, the MC names are very, very, very relevant, because this started out with Macintosh and Apple, because that was the first computer I ever used. As I said, when you used to have to use computers, way before the internet, you'd have to type in commands to the computer, sort of like programming, but all we learned were simple commands in like the 3rd grade. You'd have to type in A prompt or C prompt, and then you'd have to type in run, and then what you were wanting to play, you'd have to put in your floppy disk. I believe, from what I remember, I don't even remember, I'm pretty sure it was a floppy, I'm sure. But there are names under the MC name in the phone book that are very, very relevant, and very, things in alphabetical order, connections to names of people I went to school with, and then just general names. MC is very important because McMaster is important because, the Master and the I Dream of Jeannie thing. Major, and then I Dream of Jeannie. Rubbing on Bottles, he, dropped out of a, he was an astronaut. And then, he found the bottle on the beach, if you remember the show. And she's a genie in a bottle, and, you're supposed to get wishes or whatever if you rub the bottle or whatever. In recent years, I bought a wine decanter from Imperial. Imperial is a glass maker that's been around for a long time, since the early 1900s. but it's a wine decanter. Kind of looks like a genie bottle. And then you have harems, and then Rudolph. If you look at the Rudolph movie, the old Rudolph movie from 1972, you'll see the doorways. They look like harem doorways with the little. You can just look at them and you'll see the way the doors are made. But anyways, what I think about my foot is this. This is what I think. I think that my foot, the stitches on my left ball of my foot, I think that connects to the way the internet domain name came about, the www.com part. www, worldwide. I wear a wide shoe, okay, and then the last W, World Wide Web, Charlotte's Web, and then, you know, pig toes and toes, and, you know, and that sort of thing. The dot, I believe, came from Dot Island, or, you know, you have eggs and your menstrual cycle. And my main name, Eggers. That's how I think the main domain name came from in the internet. So that's really what I think. And then the LAN, you have the LAN in internet. Then I live in Lancaster County, the symbol of the deer. Lincoln is in Lancaster County. LAN, L-A-N. LAN, as people know, landlines, internet. Cast. Cast, you have a cast in a play, or you have a cast on your foot or limb. As I said, the incident with my foot happened between Shady Creek Court and Quail Ridge Circle. Cast, you also can do fishing and so forth. But you know, you have Wi-Fi, which I think Wi-Fi, you know, and then you have Sony PS, you know, Postal Service or PlayStation stations. You have radio stations. You have postal stations, television stations, and then you have stations as far as space stations. So this is how I think. This is what I think. This is what I think how the internet got certain protocols. I don't know exactly what year the internet came about. There was somebody told me something about Al Gore, something about him inventing the internet. Well, I remember his family, his wife being in relation to the Heinz family. Heinz, you know, Heinz ketchup and condiments. And you have Plots mustard and so forth like that. Plotzman or something like that. Anyways, that's not all that relevant, but I can connect all these games as far as my life goes. I can connect game stations to my life in one way or another, meaning, for example, High Street is on the 3200 block, and you have 32 bits and computers and games. 32 times 2 is 64. The little Fisher-Price camera is 464. And it was made in 1973, and it's called A Trip to the Zoo. And you have magic carpet rides and harems, and hookahs. I'm trying to think of the cultures, and then I got to thinking about military and the tomb of the unknown soldier, and then Jesus, and then Israel, Tel Aviv, and Bethlehem, and so forth, which is pretty disturbing. Dr. Calvert was my pediatrician growing up. Dr. Greisen is now my kid's doctor. And Calvary, Calvary Cemetery is here in Lincoln, and there's another one in Omaha. And Calvary Cemetery. Thinking about the streets near Franklin, 27th and Franklin area, 27th and Franklin and South Street. Yes. Oh, good job. Go make them. Can you go? What else can you make? Thank you.
It's a flag.
Yeah, go play. MC, as I said, Marine Corps, boot camp, Camp Pendleton, but also ran McNally maps, Einstein's theory, MC equals 3 squared. That's old. In the phone book, as I said, MC is very, very relevant because of the neighbors we had. We had the O'Neills and the McInernys, and then the other ones, the Leonards. They're all very relevant names. The Parks, the Foxes, they all were used in correlation to this scenario now. There's an MC can, an MC can't. In the names, you know, there's McLaughlin, as in Martin and Rowan's Laughlin, and there's, you know, there's so many MCs that are relevant. And I said Macintosh was the main one. MC names are very, very, very relevant in the Lincoln White pages. And you know, master and slavery, and then when I got to thinking about the pyramids and slavery, you know, slaves were said to build the pyramids in Egypt, and then you had slaves come over on ships, and then back in the Civil War thing, living here in Lincoln, Nebraska. In the word antenna, there's the word 10. In Nintendo, there's the word 10. 01010101 is binary code for computers. I took basic computers, intro to computers, in college. I'm extreme novice when it comes to computers, but I know a few things here and there that are important and relevant to computers to know. That a lot of gaming systems, and I think a lot of the internet stuff has kind of derived from my life, and I have strong reason to believe that, and the more I think about it, the more I feel that that's true. The whole thing with, you know, you have spider webs, and Mr. Webb was the principal at Zeeman, and then Charlotte's Web, and then my foot. World Wide Web. Well, spiders have 8 legs. spiders have 8 legs, and then you have windows, right? Windows, widows or widowers without the ends inside there. So, just segregate, I don't know. Watergate is a good word here, because I feel I'm in the midst of something bigger than Watergate by a billion times. And I don't know why they've been so difficult and so mean to me, considering, I think what I think is they see me as kind of either a computer or just an object or just a money-making machine. The whole wall thing. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, and my foot was next to the dumpster. A beer bottle, or a root beer bottle. I assume it was a beer bottle, but could have been a root beer bottle. It was brown, broken piece of glass. And then the whole Laverne and Shirley thing, connection with the glove over the bottle, and that's where I think Michael Jackson got the glove on his hand with the diamonds. I also wonder when he started doing the moonwalk with the penny loafers, because that seems like a connection there too. I think it would have been in about 1983 when my foot incident happened, and I'm 38 years old. So that was about 27 years ago. Michael Jackson being the king of pop, right? Elvis Presley was the king of rock and roll. He was in the army. And I remember the Elvis Presley story, and I think he died in the bathroom, overdosing on prescription drugs. And how everybody always knows, when Elvis played in venues, they'd always announce, well, Elvis has left the building. So you got the king of pop, the king of rock and roll. And so the correlation there. Yeah, I do think, I did have penny loafers when I was little. And so I'm pretty sure, the correlations with huge things in history is correlated with things that have happened to me in my life. And I don't really know why they see me as an object or a computer or a program or a pig, meaning, the thing that happened with my foot was as a result of me having counterintelligence in my body, and that's why they mocked me with my foot. I don't really know. I'm just making some things to think about here, because I don't really know. I don't know about what's in my left hand. I'm pretty sure there's something in my left hand because of the pictures. But as I said, I'm not responsible for any of this stuff, regardless. But I do think that I don't really know why people have been really, really greedy. We're not talking billions of dollars, we're talking trillions of dollars. And that's not indirectly and it's directly and indirectly both from the story of my life, and it's not a private thing what's happened to my life, because there's so much written about my life out there that's not even private. It's in music and in movies, little bits and pieces here and there. You get the story, and people have listened to my documentation and what I've had to say, and they can kind of put the pieces together. But, they wanted to make me some sort of social outcast, and Lancaster County and Lincoln, Nebraska, and Lincoln freed the slaves, and feel like I'm in a position where I'm just cornered, just like you corner Wall Street, Wall Street, and I don't know, Legos and all this stupid stuff. I just they don't see me as a human being. They don't care about my kids. They don't see me as a human being, because to them I'm just a walking icon. I've been told I'm worth more alive than dead, but at the same time I'm mistreated and abused, and what can I do about that? I can't get them to be smart. They don't want to show any signs of intelligence, because I've tried to work with them for a long time. And how do you work with people that just, when I'm surrounded by people that all they know how to do is make problems, when, I've been stuck with not knowing what to do for quite some time, and then realizing more and more all the time, on my own, and to realize all this stuff on my own after being exposed, the trickery, and what I don't really know what I can do. I'm just trying to survive and protect my kids, and people have been extremely greedy, and I think that's why they played this game. I really think that that's why they played this game with my life, is because they were trying to beat around the bush and ignore the fact that there's been tons of money made off my life, and they were worried about liabilities and payouts and things like that, so they think they're going to play this stupid little game to corner me to death. Like you corner Wall Street, or diversion theft, or around the corner games, or other kind of cornering type of games. They treat me like I'm some sort of game, as in a PlayStation or a Nintendo or a Xbox 360, 360, Calvert Street, 3600 block, and my pediatrician was Dr. Calvert, and they get this whole thing with veterinarians and veterans confused, because Dr. Calvert's daughter had always been one of our vets for our pets over the years. His daughter, Dr. Calvert, and then Dr. Berkey at Clock Tower Animal Clinic, and then Dr. Calvert was at Lincoln Pediatric Group, and he's retired, and Clock Tower Animal Clinic has always been on A Street. It's always been there since I was little, and so abbreviations for vet. And as I said, Veterans Day, at least is always on the 11th, and I grew up on 5511 Harvard Circle, and 55 is the age of retirement. And then, I'm trying to figure out what these people are thinking, but, 8 legs of a spider and widows and black widows and just weird stuff, I got to thinking about autumn, and then, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Well, the other name for fall is autumn. So I didn't even realize that when I named her or had her, that other people had intentions for her, because she was a scheduled C-section on September 10th of 2009. You have fallout shelters, and High Street having a real authentic fallout shelter in the basement here, 4701 High Street, in which you had the first owners were Holocaust survivors, and so she's my youngest, she's my baby, she's my third child. I was the third child, and third person, third child. So I've always sang Rockabye Baby to my children. As I said, Shady Creek Court, and then you sit under a shade tree, to get shade, and then, when the bough breaks in Rockabye Baby, when the bough breaks, and all the things connected to break and breaks, bows of ships, champagne, and so forth. People can figure out the connections. When I was in the doctor's office today with my son, I was looking at the equipment, looking at the eye charts where you have the letters sideways, backwards, upside down. E was at the top. E, I think, has always been at the top of eye charts. I don't think that's anything new. And then, doing hearing tests where you hear sounds, the equipment used for that, in doctor's offices. So, I have no idea why people would choose to be malicious, use malice, and choose to go the direction that they wanted to go with things, with making things worse and worse and worse and worse, versus, they could have came along at any point of the situation and, since they were so interested in money, they could have done something else. And I don't really understand their business practices because, or even public relations, human rights is a whole nother thing, because they obviously have no sense of knowing what human rights is all about. They're so ungrateful and so greedy that they don't, the whole numbers thing and infinity, and, numbers is something that goes for infinity, and I don't really know why they would choose to make poor, if they were business people, even if it was shady business practices and white collar crime involved, you would think that they would have, done something else. I've got sick kids now, I gotta worry about them because they've worked on destroying their lives before I even knew what was going on with myself, which is extremely scary. And then Autumn and Sean's sick. I think he's probably got, I think they've probably used, I think they've probably given him some sort of lung condition in relation to what I discussed earlier, because of magic carpet rides and asbestos in schools and The Wall by Pink Floyd, and then you have birds and coal mines, when coal mines are where you get diamonds, and then the De Beers thing. And I remember getting spam. For mesothelioma back 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I thought, well, why am I getting all these black lung mesothelioma spams? And then, now I'm thinking about what's spam. Spam is junk mail you get, but spam is also canned ham. So I'm sure it's true that the poison the rugs and the houses I've lived in, Truchard Road, and then I don't know what's going on over where Sean's residing at South Haven right now, because he's been sick since the past month, and he's living with his father. I took him to the doctor today, got an inhaler for him, and he has to use a chamber for his inhaler. I mean, what do you have chambers for? I don't know, chambers of torture, I suppose. And I don't know, I sit there and I've watched him suffer, and it makes me sick. And the doctor knows how sick I am about this whole situation, because I've gone to him with things before. When I first thought that crank was getting in the kids' food, I remember talking to him about that, and crank or cocaine, and I have no control over people that are habitual criminals. They're just habitual criminals. They don't know how to stop. And why wouldn't you want to stop with your habitual crimes versus all they've done is escalate a big, huge mess? Because nobody knew me in 2005. Look at the huge escalation of everything. Well, you know why they wanted to escalate things. To try to corner me with this escalation of bringing me fame, to entrap me as a sabotage, but at the same time, they've probably raked in more money in the past 5 or 6 years with the fame than they did in 20 years of the time that, this has gone on with my life. And so I'm confused as to what the people in the public know about why they would choose such poor public relations with mistreating us. And people already know that it's not a good scenario, and it's really, really bad what's gone on here. Why they wouldn't have stopped at any point and turned around. Evidently, torture makes them a lot of money, and I'm trying to figure out, well, why wouldn't they have wanted to go the other way? The only thing I can think of is that they're just sickly greedy, just evil, greedy. Because I've talked about, the miscellaneous liabilities. I've talked about them. They come from many directions, and I've talked about them. And I said, okay, I'm not at fault for anything, obviously. So instead of picking on me all the time like they always do, because they're in denial and they want to look at me as somebody other than a human being, they want to look at me as like an object that just sits around making their money for them, just this walking icon. I'm a walking dollar bill. You know, I make people money. But I don't have money myself. And I'm thinking, everybody sees this. Everybody sees this in the country. I know they see this. You can see it written all over everybody in the public's faces that I see every day now. They've caught on. They've figured this out. The people that knew in Lincoln before really know now. And the people in the media certainly know. And they're disgusted with people's mannerisms and inability to be compassionate, to put a woman in this position with her children, to exploit them and to mistreat them in such a cruel and barbaric way. It's queer. This is queer. And I think about the De Beers thing, and I'm thinking, this is de queer. What they've done to us, women and children first. The whole thing with that, you know, saving their lives supposedly, but they're opposite. Women and children first to die is what they were thinking, because they don't need us. We're just money-making machines to them, obviously. Because I went through the liabilities thing, and I'm not liable for nothing. I have no liabilities, none. I don't have a single liability, and neither do my children. So why are we sitting here suffering because of the liabilities for others? Why? There is no reason why. There's none. I've tried working with them. I've tried negotiating with them. They're just greedy, chauvinistic pigs, I guess. They're greedy. They don't care about other people. The outstanding amounts of revenue and money that have been generated from my life, I know it's there because I take a look around me. I look at all the products around me and I think, well, how did this come about? Or this come about? And some things I can't really say for sure, but then there's other things that I'm like, yeah, I know how that came about. And because, 27 years has gone by. I don't know why they look at me as, I think they look at me as like an object or a computer or something that I'm not. And then I talked about the little camera thing there with the little flash cube on there, and then you got flashbacks and post-traumatic stress disorder and flashbacks and LSD. And I'm thinking, trip to the zoo. Well, you got the Henry Dorley Zoo, which is in Omaha, and right next to the Henry Dorley Zoo has always been Rosenblatt Stadium. And Rosenblatt Stadium has always been where the World Series is held, in Omaha. And then you have Folsom Zoo and the Folsom Prison Blues and Prison Blues, and I'm just, the Folsom Zoo in Lincoln, Nebraska, by the way, is just another thing on A Street, just so people are aware of. A Street, significant, 1400 block, and then 14th Street is also significant, as I talked about before. So, and then Honest Abe, I'm honest versus other people are not. And then Honest Engine, as people know in Indian terms. And then fire engines, car engines, V8, vegetable juice, and people trying to abuse me to the state of being a vegetable, I guess, because they think it's fun. With the post-traumatic stress, people purposely give me post-traumatic stress disorder because they wanted to exploit me, and I think it's fun to do. I spent 20 years with a man who sits there and thinks it's funny. When he looks at his children, he's always got a smile and a grin on his face because he comes from a very sick family. He thinks it's funny to watch Sean suffer and my children suffer because he was a selfish pig that wanted to expose us to get us killed so he could go hang around with whores and have a social life. And they're just very sick people. The Chase family are very, very, very sick people. Very, very mentally ill people. You know, I look up rice in the phone book. The next word is Richard. Rich. The next word after rice is Richard. Beatrice, Nebraska is 3-county, in which there's the park there, in which has the old capsule of one of the Apollo missions, I believe, in the park there in Beatrice. And if you spell it, it sounds like beet rice. And then you got egg beaters and, you know, people who think that I'm here as a food or, you know, just an object to sit here and abuse and beat and ridicule and you know, they're just insane people. They just think it's fun to they took advantage of a situation that I'd had nothing to do with. I didn't know nothing about, and left me vulnerable and took away my privacy all these years. I've never had a real life. They stole that from me. And they don't acknowledge when they're wrong, and they don't feel anything for other people. They have no compassion. All they know how to do is create problems. They're habitual criminals, sociopaths, and narcissists. They do not know how to problem solve with all their little math equations and addresses and adding and subtracting and stealing and robbing me of my life, of normal basic human needs, as far as having, you know, a comfort zone and all this other stuff. They did this wanting to, basically using women's suffrage and Rosa Parks down by the county courthouse. Basically, they want to suffocate me of what humans need. I'm not talking about food and water. I'm talking about just basic, you know, feeling safe, not be abused. The abuses have risen and risen and risen gradually over the little drama scenario, in which never should have happened to begin with. And they're very sick people. They have no compassion. They're thoughtless. They are cold. All they care about is money. And I'm thinking, well, you know, they think that they can just take my life and do whatever they want with it because they don't care. They're extremely uneducated. They think I'm the one that needed the education when actually it was the other way around, because these people don't know how to make money without hurting people. And they think human suffering is something that needs to be done versus, no, it doesn't need to be done. And I'm thinking about, you know, you can't teach these people to understand what they've done wrong, because all they know how to do is make things worse. The whole thing with the moon, the honeymooners, I believe, was one thing that it started from the honeymooners, and then, you know, there's all these other correlations. The honeymooners, you know, were Jackie, Lisa, and there's another Jack named Gleason. I always took Glee or chorus in school. Mr. Nuss was my chorus teacher at Pound Junior High, and Mr. Shearer was my chorus teacher at Southeast High School. And then you have Rudolph, Shut It Out with Glee, and you have Dasher, and then you have RFID, Dancer, Ballet, Prancer, Comet is a cleaner, Ajax is an alternative, Cupid, as people know what Cupid is, you know, the little Valentine thing or whatever, Donner, people named Dawn, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitz in a football play, or play of football, and Island of the Misfit Toys, and Yogi Bear, Yellowstone Park, and so forth.
No.
But these people just show no signs of life, of being human. They show, you look at them like they're blank, and all they know how to do is they're so screwed up. All they know how to do is create more problems. That's all they know how to do. I have never seen, in the past duration of the past 5 to 6 years, I've never seen somebody lift a finger to try to problem solve. Because you know why? Because it's a reverse pyramid where they're probably making more money than they're having to spend to try to pay people from helping me. They're paying people to help me because they're making more on the inside of the pyramid by just letting me sit here and suffer, which is wrong. That's what I'm thinking. Because smart business practices would be, in a political sense, would be to help me out and make money that way if they wanted to make money, but they do everything opposite. Everything opposite. I'm terrified of the presidents. I think they're insane. I think they're crazy because they have no idea what they've done and what they've stirred up with these stupid little frickin' brats, and I'm frickin' tired of them. I'm tired of them, and I'm tired of my children having to pay for them, for these people who think that they're frickin' God's gift to frickin' everything, and playing sick, sadistic cult type things with my life and my children's life. They have no compassion or respect for other people's lives. Or human life. They have no respect for human life. None. None whatsoever. And they never did. But as I talked about the moon thing, the honeymooners, Pal writing the kisser, he'd always tell her. Ralph Cramden, he or whatever, Jackie Gleason, he was a bus driver, right? Well, he'd always say Pal writing the kisser, right? The mistletoe thing, and then POWs and powwows and Indians and then the moon thing. Where do you see the moon? I don't know which flags are on the moon is on. I haven't looked them up yet. And then I got to thinking about old outhouses. Old outhouses, I think, had the little moon symbol on the doors. I'm thinking these people are absolutely off their rocker, insane. They are crazy. They are nuts. They are crazy. Everybody sees this. Jackie Onassis, John F. Kennedy's wife. I think they use that name sideways with the NASA. And then Ted Kennedy, the bridge incident, and so forth. So really creepy things going on here, and just so people know the story, this is the real deal. I've really been internally abused severely at times, to the point where I cry because it's so painful. They don't see me as a human being. They just see me as a walking icon or a computer system, like a gaming system. Like I'm here to game for them, to bring in money. There's nothing. These people have no souls. Because I guess they thought that my foot, the soul on my foot, they made themselves soulless. And they sold their soul. They're trying to sell me, solicit me, to rock and roll and the entertainment industry and everything else. This goes way beyond the entertainment industry. The internet, the entertainment industry, products and homes, and just lots of things, because 27 years is a long time. And just kind of, as I said, some of it's direct, some of it's not direct, the financial aspect. But there has been no financial drawback to my life, and that's why they try to repeat it with Autumn, and that's what they've done to her, and that's why they want to kill her to try to cover it up, because they want to cover up the fact that there's so much money, tons and tons and tons and tons of money. It's just like the movie where you see the movie National Treasure is a pretty good example of the money sitting underneath the president's heads, South Dakota, and then you have the Resolute desk, and everybody knows about the Resolve carpet cleaner. Anyways, that's a pretty good example of all the money, you know, pirates, treasures, and things like that, treasure maps, and they can't even put an actual figure on the amount of money that's been generated from my life, and they don't care about wasting somebody else's life,
Mommy?
because it's brought me no benefit. All it's brought me is pain and torture and abuse, ridicule, and there's been no advantages to my life whatsoever. My kids have suffered, and these people they're just not even human. They're monsters. It's just like, you know, the books that I owned when I was little had Socks the cat, so they thought that relevated to putting a pacemaker in me with light sockets and all this other stupid stuff. I'm thinking, these people are crazy. The books that I had when I was little, and then that probably has a great deal to do with eBay, how eBay came around. And as I said, the money is outstanding. I mean, it's just, you just can't, there's no calculations to the amounts of revenue generated from what's happened with my life. And they're just very self-absorbed and thoughtless, and they have no understanding that I'm a real person, because they've never met me. They don't understand that I'm a person, I'm a human being. I'm not just this walking icon. That's how they see me. I'm just an icon to them, you know. So, you know, Oscar the Grouch and the Oscars awards, and I do know for sure that the Moon Man came from my foot, from MTV. I'm absolutely sure about that. And so it's difficult, you know. Most people with fame have money. I have nothing. And most people with fame aren't abused and tortured and just abused and ridiculed and put into precarious situations of such barbaric ways. And I talked about the liabilities, so I just know that they're just cruel and evil. There's no other way to calculate that, because I've been talking about liabilities for a long time. So, and people know this. They know this, and it's not my fault, because I've tried everything I know how to do. People have watched me try everything. They know I'm you know, just trying to survive and protect my children. Survive and protect my children. And they're just so greedy. You know, we have the Grinch. You know, they're just, you know, and then Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge. Charlotte's Web. E.B. White. And Ebenezer Scrooge. Bah humbug, you know. Baba Black Sheep and the wool. Steel wool. Leg of lamb, or rack of lamb, racketeering or whatever, and then hum would be the box, or relevance to Lincoln, Nebraska, and the whole derogatory term of moon cricket, The fact that I now hear noises the past 2 years, which I didn't hear before. And then Bug would be to the right, which would be east. Bug would be the VW. Bug would be, I believe Bob would be Obama's to the left, and to the right would be George W. Bush, and me in the middle. Kim Hum is who I worked with at CBA. Her husband was Ira Hum, the boxer, and they own the construction company, or he owns the construction company. But that's how they relevated, the whole thing. So they don't want to outright admit to the astronomical amounts of money, because they were too greedy, and they figured it's cheaper to pay out small increments to other people than to own up to what I'm actually supposed to be worth. And I don't know. I just think they're sick. I think there's something really wrong with them, obviously. They've made some very, very poor business decisions. Even if it was started out with corruption, they've made some very poor business, white-collar crimes. They've made some very poor business decisions in relevance to how they've treated me and my children. And people are aware of that, and people are angry. People are very angry in the public. They're very, very angry. This is not what they should have done. This is not how they should be reacting. This is not how you deal with public. This is not how you treat people in general. You don't use people's lives and think you can destroy them based on your own criminal activities with reverse psychology. That's just not going to work. And I've tried everything, so I know the problem's not with me, and I know all these people know how to do. When I've sat back and watched this, all these people know how to do is create problems. That's all they know how to do. They've never lifted a finger once to try to do anything right.